Hi guys, here I am. I promised you that today is storytelling time. Hello everybody. Hi guys. Hi Mike. Hi. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. Stifu, thank you for joining. Today I promised that I'm going to tell you guys a story of my life, who I am, because you guys have been on the journey with me for 25 days. I've been on this journey for 25 days, social media journey. I'm a granny of 58 years old and the first time trying social media, and I have been blown away because I am totally enjoying the social media platform. I didn't know that it's so great, and it's actually it's an answer to my prayers because I've been praying for a platform to share my experiences with everyone, and I finally found it. And you guys have made it possible because you've gone on this journey with me. The only thing is, you guys need to have lots of patience with me because, like I told you, I am not really tech savvy. I'm just learning this social media thing, this whole tech thing. I'm learning it day by day by day. So I'm making many mistakes. And I know that I told you guys that you need to put comments in the chat, but I get so excited when I'm talking to you guys that I forget to look at the chat. And to be honest with you, in the chat, sometimes there's people that say really ugly things, and I just don't want to be distracted by that. So I just carry on with what I'm doing. So yesterday, I was talking to you guys about motives and about choices, because that's actually what I'm about. What I've learned in life is that the choices that you make are so important in life. It's actually every single thing that you do in life, it's making a choice. And like I said to you, I'm 58 years old, so I've made many wrong choices in my life, but I've also made many right choices in my life, and I can see how my choices have steered me along the way. So today I'm just gonna share with you my story, to tell you where I'm coming from, who I am, and just for you to get to know me, because I've realized that on social media there's so many people, and I also spoke about it on some of my lives and my chats. I was saying that in today's world you don't even know what's real anymore. You don't know, like, people always have ulterior motives. That's why one of the things that I also teach is make sure that your motives are right. Why are you here? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? What is your motive for doing things? Because what I have learned is that God is a God of the heart. And we go to church, and like, we hear so many testimonies, or we hear so many preachings, whatever, about God, a God of judgment. And yes, God does judge, but God is also a loving God. And I'm not just here to tell you about the loving side of God. God is a judge, but there's lots of people that tell you about the judgment side of God. But I want to tell you that God is a God of the heart, and God judges your heart. So as long as your heart is right, then you've got nothing to worry about. And that's where motive comes in, that's where attitudes come in, and that's where choices come in. So I have got a rule. It's called the AMC rule, that I have discovered for myself in my life. A stands for attitude, M stands for motive, and C stands for choices. But we've got so much time ahead of us. We're in a relationship for the long haul. So I'm going to be sharing all those things. I've got a lifetime of stories and a lifetime of experience to share with you, to help you on your journey. And I'm hoping that you guys will be interactive with me, because I want you never too old to learn. I want to learn from you as much as you want to learn from me. So enough of that. I told you today is story time. So I can't really start at the beginning of my life, which was when I was like 4 years old. That's as far back as I can remember. I will take you on those little journeys as I go along. But I want to start when my life actually turned around, and what caused me to turn around, and what caused me to go on this journey. So it actually started Well, it was last year. Last year was 31 years, but it's still 31 years. So 31 years ago, my journey started. And how did it start? Okay, I am a bookkeeper, a qualified bookkeeper, and I was working for a company. So, but being young and being stupid and being so focused on your job and so focused on not losing your job, stuck in your job and going to work and coming back and just being so tied up with your salary. This day, my child, my firstborn, was 3 years old, and he had to go for an operation. So because I was scared of my job, because I didn't want to ask my boss, I was scared to ask her for time off. I told my husband that he must go with my son for this operation. I'm not going because I'm too scared to ask my boss. Well, people, that night before the operation, I was asleep. I did not sleep, not one single wink. I was tossing, I was turning, I was crying, I was feeling so guilty that I wasn't going. I think it was my conviction, my conscience was just not happy with the choice that I made not to go to this operation with my son. So then, but being sleepless, when the morning came, I told myself, I am going to go into my boss's office and I'm going to tell her that I'm going to this operation. And I'm not going to ask, I'm going to tell. And that's exactly what I did. I walked into office, I told her, I turned around, I went to the clinic. By that time, my husband was there with my son, so I could still see him being wheeled into the room. Halfway through the operation, the surgeon came out and asked. There was a problem, and he wanted our opinion. What should he do? My husband and I discussed it. Had I not been there, what would my husband have done? What would he have done? How would he have coped with that very serious problem without me being there? In those days, there was no cell phones. We couldn't just communicate, pick up the phone. Thank goodness I was there. Thank God I was there to help my husband so that we could together discuss and make a decision as to what we're going to do with my son. Okay, we told him what to do, and then they carried on. When my son came out of the operating room, the first thing he said when he woke up was, "Mommy." Well, people, I burst out crying. I thought to myself, how could I possibly have wanted to allow my child to go into the operation, into the theater without me? How could I have wanted to do that? Anyway, the next day, I went to work. And of course, I was called into the boss's office. And I was told in no uncertain terms that my behavior was not acceptable. But this is where the turning point happened. My boss said to me, "Yolanda, one thing I want you to remember is that your work comes before your family." That was it. That was my turning point. That was the point that caused me to think, no ways, this is not for me. I was 27 years old at the time. 27 years old. I said, no ways, this is not the life I want to live. This is a prison. A prison. I'm not going to be part of this prison. I'm not going to be part of this rat race system, going to work, coming back, going to work, coming back. And then when you're 60 or 65 and you need to retire, the moment you retire, the next day you drop down and you're dead. And what did you love of life? What did you love of life? I said, no ways. That's not what I want to do. I need to get out of this. I need to find a way of getting out of this rat race, out of the slavery. Because basically, I realized at that point that you are employed for 8 hours. They pay you 8 hours for your time there. And in that 8 hours, they have complete rulership over you. They can tell you how many times you needs to go to the toilet. They tell you how long you can spend on the phone, who to speak to, who not to speak to. I was done. But my journey was 31 years, people. 31 years. But it was a long journey. And I'm going to share all that. I might not get it all done in today. Anyway. So, I went looking and searching for ulterior motive. I did a lot of studying. I did a lot of researching. But I don't remember what happened in the next 2 years. But this is what I remember when I was 29. The next big thing happened when I was 29. And I think this was all part of my searching, because I started praying to God. God, help me, show me, lead me, guide me. Because up until this point, I was just a traditional Christian. I was a Catholic. From Catholic, I had a Catholic upbringing, an Anglican background, a traditional Orthodox Christian background. So I was praying all the time, asking God for answers. Well, when I was 29, this is what happened. One of the ladies at work, all of a sudden things changed at work, and I was linked up. My job was now to be in close proximity to this one lady, because our jobs kind of linked us up together. So I had to spend a lot of time with this lady. And guess what happened? This lady became a born-again Christian. Well, I wasn't ready for that. And it also happened that she moved on my route to work. So I could fetch her on my route to work. I could pick her up with my car and take her back home. So this woman was in my face all the time. Okay. And guess what? She became born again. And I thought, oh no, this is my biggest nightmare. This woman is becoming born again. She's one of those weird people that talks about God. And that's all she spoke about God, this, God, that. And I thought, oh my goodness, come back to reality, woman. Please, even though I believed in God, but she was just too much God. So in every day, I used to pick her up on the way to work and take her home. On the way home, she was smoking in my car, and I did not like anyone to smoke in my car, but I was too good-hearted to tell her. And she was smoking and talking about God, and smoking and talking about God. Oh, God is so good. God is so wonderful. Go to work. This one day, I walked into her office, and she said to me, oh, Yolanda, I just got a big revelation. I'm going to stop smoking. She took this had to happen while I walked into her office, people. She took the cigarettes and she threw it into her dirt box. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, right. When I leave this office, you're going to be picking up that cigarette and you're going to be smoking it again. Well, people, that's 31 years ago. The woman still hasn't picked up the cigarettes. Okay, so that was the first thing I was looking at. I was watching this woman. Okay, then the next thing happened. Okay, she just got married. Okay, so she got married. She's a born again Christian, but she got married to this guy from another country he was a Muslim, actually, and she got married to him, and then she was trying to convert him. She got pregnant from this guy, but she's got 2 other kids. Her daughter was 14 at the time, and she had a son. And the son, I don't know, he could have been 9, 10. Anyway, so she got pregnant from this guy. So now every day she's talking about God. And then she's pregnant. And then she came to work one day and she said her daughter of 14 is pregnant. And I thought, oh my goodness. And she told me the story. She told myself and the lady that was working at reception. She told us the story. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, no, this cannot happen. This child of ours needs to have an abortion, because how can this child at 14 have a baby? The mother's pregnant, she's pregnant. This is a catastrophe. But I didn't want to say this, people. I didn't want to say this. Okay, but the lady that was working at reception, she said everything that I was thinking. She said, oh no, my friend, you cannot allow your daughter to have a baby. She needs to have an abortion. And you know what she said, this lady? She said, no ways, my daughter will not have an abortion. I'm standing by my daughter 100%. We will do this together. I will assist her. I will stand by her. I will walk with her. I thought, oh my goodness, what a mess. Anyway, to cut this to a long story short, I watched this thing going. The next thing that happened, she was staying in this home. She was renting a place, and she's staying with it's her. She's the only breadwinner. She's staying with this new husband of hers who doesn't have a job. The daughter, 14, is pregnant, chucked out of school, and then she's got a child at school, and she's the only breadwinner. And now they've been chucked out of their apartment. The people don't want them there. And now she's looking for a place to stay. So now they're going to look for a place to stay. So I walk into her house on a Saturday morning. And this is the conversation in the house. So her daughter says to her, Mommy, what are we going to do? And she says, don't worry, we're going to believe and trust in God. God will get us through. And I'm thinking to myself, oh no, please come down to reality. Forget about God. You have to do something. And guess what? Once again, her daughter says everything that I want to say. She says, Mommy, please forget about God. Let's just live in reality. We have to find a place to stay. And then her mother just kept quiet and said, all right. She said, we're going to trust in God, the mother. Well, people, they had to be out by the end of that month. And you know what happened? By the end of that month, to my astonishment, God really provided for them. I was so shocked. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I want to show you how God was working with me. What was my journey? So they got a much better place than they were living in. A 3-bedroom townhouse. I could not believe it. For me, it was like God is saying, well, did I show you that for me all things are possible? Anyway, they moved into the place and things worked out. She then got a baby and her daughter got a baby. So I'm going to tell you what happened to the daughter. So the daughter's 14, she's chucked out of school. All the parents of the daughter, all the parents of her daughter, her daughter's friends have now told their children they're not allowed to associate with my friend's daughter because of the situation. Anyway, so she's at home. Her daughter now gets a daughter. So this child is getting a child. The mother and the child is at home with their children. So the child is at home 1 year with her children. And so she was now in her, let me just think, in the 8th grade. The 9th grade. She was in the 9th year of her schooling when this happened. So 2 years later, she went back to school, but her mother sent her to college so she could jump ahead. She could do a few years in one. She did it and she was successful. And guess what? She graduated from school with all her friends. So I've been looking at this story now for 4 years, right? And here I see that the child has graduated with all her friends. And with flying colors. And not only that, the boy whom she was pregnant from, now, another 2 years later, they get married and they start their own church. This is too much. I'm watching this. It's like God is taking me step by step, making me realize who He is and how He is a God of the miraculous. Okay, so now I'm still in this rut, trying to find a way out of my rat race. And I'm okay. So, but what I'm trying to do with this little story on the side, I now have also joined the church because the same friend, in the interim, she invites me to church. So I am too kind to say no. She invites me to a church. I go to the church, and I come from a very staunch, very orthodox Christian background, Catholic, Anglican. So I'm in church and I'm sitting like this with my arms crossed, looking very critically at what's going on. And the people are playing the guitar, they're playing the drums, and they're clapping hands, and they're singing, and their hands are up and they're shouting, and they're just having fun at church. And where I come from, you're quiet, you're reserved, you don't make a noise, you make a sign of the cross, you stand up, you kneel, you sing hymns, everybody's behaving themselves, And this is not normal for me. So I'm sitting there and I'm talking to God. I'm saying, oh God, get me out of here. God, get me out. This place is a madhouse. There's sometimes people are even running around and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, am I in a madhouse or what's going on? After the service, oh, my friend is so excited. Oh, Yolanda, did you like it? Did you like it? And of course I say, yes, yes. Oh, you have to come back. You have to come back. So I say yes and I go back. So I go back all the time. Okay. So this one pastor said, be careful who you associated because you're going to slip into their whatever they do. Well, people, a few months down the line, I slipped in and I just joined in and I became one of those happy, clappy, crazy people in church, shouting, screaming, hallelujah, glory be to God, and enjoying myself. And that is so that's the second thing that happened to me. So I then joined the mad people, okay, the crazy people for Jesus, okay. So that happened basically 3 years later, 3 years from the time where I had my switch. So you must understand, God is busy in all this. I don't realize it, but God is busy. He's answering all my questions. He's answering all my questions and he's very busy with me. Okay, fine. So the next thing happens, okay? So my husband is an Austrian. I'm a South African. My husband is an Austrian. So my husband decides he wants to come back to his hometown. But remember that he grew up in South Africa. His parents, they immigrated to South Africa when he was only 4 years old. So basically he didn't have the culture. He only spoke the language. They speak German here in Austria. So he didn't have all that background, you know. So basically, when we moved here, he was a South African just like me. He didn't really know the language. He didn't know the culture. He knew nothing. So he decided we're coming. So we came to Austria then. And that was like, I think it must have been 4 years after my turning point. Well, and it was about 1 year, 3 months after I became a believer. So now God is busy working on my belief. He's busy answering my prayers. So we come 15 months after I became born again, we come to Austria. So I'm a brand new Christian and all I have is my faith. So here I come to this place. I'm thinking I'm coming to a better life. I'm thinking I'm coming to a wonderful life. My husband comes 2 months before me, okay? But when he comes here, he's treated exactly like a foreigner in his own country because he can't really speak the language very well. He can't communicate. He's never gone to school doing this language. So the first thing he did, he had to find a job. And luckily, his uncle gave him a job. And his uncle is in the construction business. My husband has never worked in construction. He's an IT man. So he was pushing wheelbarrows. And it's winter time. And he's busy pushing wheelbarrows with concrete inside. Laying cobblestones on the sidewalk. By that time, I came with the children. At that time, my children, my baby was 3 years old. And the bigger one was 4. So we were with 2 small children and all we came with was our cases, with blankets, with 4 plates, 4 cups, 4 spoons, and with my brand new faith. So when I arrived here, my husband's hands were swollen, they were cut. I was shocked, but I'm excited. And of course, so my husband picks us up from the airport and brings us now to our new home. My people, I tell you, I was shocked when I walked into our place for the first time. It was a dump. From the life that I was coming from in South Africa, I came from a good life. I came from a pretty modern home. From a good home, from a middle class environment I came, and here I'm coming into a dump. The place it was over 100 years old, maybe 200 years old, big walls like this. I'm not used to that. The place was ice cold. It was the end of winter. There was a carpet in the kitchen, a coal stove that my grandmother had in South Africa in the kitchen. Oh my goodness gracious me. I walked in and I said, what is going on here? Oh no, because I was expecting something great, something grand. But immediately it was like God is speaking to my heart and saying, Yolanda, be grateful, be grateful. Be grateful. This is what you've been praying for. You wanted to get out. You big. And I said, oh Lord, forgive me. Thank you for this place. It wasn't easy, people. That is when my lesson in humility started. My lesson in humility, because remember, I come from my high horse. I've got the big head. I'm a bookkeeper. Oh, I'm earning big bucks. I'm working in a big corporation, and now I'm coming here, and I come from a good home, a nice home, and I'm coming to this dump. And most of all, I have to work. My husband has now he's got this job. Anyway, I'm praying, okay? So I arrived in March, okay? So my husband's doing this. His hands were swollen, and then he got another job delivering pizzas. He was delivering pizzas. So he was working 2 jobs until 12 o'clock at night. And of course, in the time, I'm now 1 year and 3 months a born again believer. And before I left, I learned, for a spirit of heaviness, put on a mantle of prayer. So my children are sleeping. My husband is doing from 6 to 12, or from 8 to 12. He's now doing the second job, and I'm crying, and I'm playing praise and music, and I'm putting on a spirit of praise for the spirit of him, and I'm crying. I'm saying, God, please forgive me, and I'm singing to Hillsong, singing, crying, because this is not what I signed up for. I'm completely disappointed, because I'm thinking I'm coming to a better life. Anyway, so now I have to go work, and I cannot find a job because I'm illiterate. I cannot speak the language. I cannot communicate with anyone. I cannot read. The only thing I can do is I need to become a maid. So luckily, my husband's uncle responded to an advert in the paper. So you couldn't phone the people. He responded to the advert in the paper, and he sent it to the newspaper for this job as a maid. So the thing that I realized when I came here is that you cannot get a full-time job as a maid. It's too expensive. People can't afford you. So you have to have like 10 jobs to fill up your hours. And I don't have many hours. I only have 4 hours a day, Monday to Friday, because after 12, my children come from kindergarten. So I need to be there. I don't have money for a aftercare. So I prayed to God, oh God, please, I need a job. And I need a job that from 8 to 12 every single day, Monday to Friday. But I don't want 10 different jobs. I just want one job. And that is not, it's a miracle. It doesn't happen here. Anyway, so then, and then I also said, and please let the people speak English, because I can't speak German. I don't know, if they tell me to clean the windows, how am I going to understand them? Anyway, so I prayed. So then, one day, I was somewhere, and the phone rang, and something said to me, here is the phone call. The lady that you have applied for the job is on the phone. So yeah, I picked up the phone, and then the lady started speaking. I didn't understand a word she was saying. So all I knew at that time is to say in German, I cannot speak German. I can only speak English. And guess what? People, the lady started speaking English. And 30 years ago, that wasn't, yeah, people couldn't speak English those days in the era that I'm living in. It was so seldom that people could speak English, but she spoke English. And then she asked me some questions, and I said to her, I answered her questions, and she told me I could start day after tomorrow, right? And guess what? The job was 8 to 12, Monday to Friday, people. And I found out that the person before me was only working there 2 days a week, 8 to 12, 2 days. I got the job. And what I found out afterwards, after I left that job, that the person after me was also only working 2 days a week, 8 to 12. So, of course, my faith was ignited. My faith was ignited because I realized that God is actually answering my prayer. But this was the baby steps that God was taking me, the journey, teaching me to be humble, to get off my high horse, because that's all I was, on my high horse. So the next thing, people, that I was worried about and concerned about, of course, was money. Money was a big issue. To be honest with you, people, I really didn't have problems with relationships. I didn't have those those other problems that people normally have in their lives. Thank God, God blessed me in that respect. The only challenges I had really was finances. The only challenges that I had was this problem of hand to mouth, just living one step at a time. You never having enough. Always going to the grocery store and going with a calculator, calculating if I've got enough money, never being able to just buy food even for my family, just living hand to mouth, even as a bookkeeper. That was what it was like. But I think that was just God, ordering my footsteps. I know God doesn't make these things happen, but He allows it to happen sometimes for our own good, because He's setting us on a path. So, okay, so this is now the beginning. This is the challenges that I'm facing. Okay, going forward a few months. Okay, it's now starting to get winter. Winter is coming, and my children, they don't have jackets. They don't have warm clothes, because remember, I'm coming from South Africa, and now the winter's coming in. By this time, okay, that's another story. How I got to a church here, and it was a happy, clappy church, people. Okay, let me go back and tell you. So anyway, I was at this happy, clappy church now that my friend took me to. So now on this day, I did. My husband is gone. He left. Okay, in January to come here. It's 2 months before myself and the kids. Myself and the children came then 2 months later in March. But that's another story I'm going to tell you. I just don't have enough time to share everything that happened in these few years with my walk with God. So what was I telling you? Anyway, so then I came. What was I telling you? I've lost my line of thought now, people. So, anyway, so now the winter's coming. The winter is coming, and I'm standing. I'm going to work. Okay, so I met this lady here. I went to church. This is what I wanted to tell you. I went to church. How I got to the church, I'll tell you that on another day. This is not for now. Anyway, so I went to church, and the lady that got me, the lady that was pregnant with a child, she was now my spiritual mother. So when I arrived there, every time when I had a problem, when I felt depressed, she used to phone me. And just motive every single time. I don't know how she managed it those days, because by this time I had a cell phone, but it must have cost a fortune for her to phone me from South Africa to Austria on a cell phone. But it just so happened. So one day I said to God, this can't happen anymore. She can't phone me every time. I need a spiritual mother here. And then I got the church here. But that's just the story I wanted to tell you, but I'll tell you that story on another day. So one day I was at home and I said, God, I need a spiritual mother. That was Monday. Friday, a lady that was in the church with me here in Austria, and that church was not a church. It wasn't recognized by the government of Austria as a church. They were labeled as a sect, because the only churches that was here was Catholic churches, and that was a happy clappy, the one of the first in my area. Anyway, so then this lady came on Friday. She just knocked on my door, and she said, she invited herself, and I was so happy to see her. And that's when my relationship with her as a spiritual mother began. Anyway, so now here I am in winter. I'm looking for a jacket for my child, and I go to the shop, and it's just so expensive. I can't afford to buy my child a jacket, and I'm so despondent, and I'm so depressed, and I don't want to share this with my husband, because for him it's also hard. He's an IT man, but he didn't get the job in IT. He got the job in a learnership. At the time he was 30, but he got the job as an 18-year-old, a start off. So his salary was very little. Anyway, so we couldn't afford to buy the jacket. So I phoned my spiritual mother, this new one. I said to her, listen, my son doesn't have a jacket, and my son, it's so difficult. She said, Yolanda, don't worry, let's pray. So she started praying. Oh Lord, please, you can see Yolanda has a problem. She doesn't have a jacket for her children. Please, can you send the jacket? The next morning, when I got to work, cleaning, my cleaning job, as I unlocked the door, the phone rang, and I went. And I went to the phone, and the lady that I was working for, she said, Yolanda, go into the dressing room. There are jackets for your sons. I thought, what? I just prayed this prayer yesterday. So you see how God was busy building up my faith. God was busy building up my faith. And this is the things that I want to share with you, because I want you to realize that God is a very real God. And the moment you start trusting in Him, the moment you start giving your life over to Him, things start happening. And I've got so many of these stories that I want to share with you. Okay. Anyway, so I was now a maid for this lady. I was a maid for 2 years because God was just taking me on a journey to become humble, to get off my high horse. And the thing is, when I was in South Africa, I was living a good life. I was living a comfortable life. There was no real space for God because there was no challenges. Things were just so easy. But later on, I realized it says in Genesis chapter 12, it talks there about God spoke to Abraham and said, I'm taking you from your father's house to a land which I will give you. Well, that's exactly what God did, because I was actually at the time, I was already married for 7 years when all this happened. When I came here, I was married for 7 years. And I was still staying with my father's house because my father had such a huge house back in South Africa. But I was comfortable there. I had no challenges. My father was just the greatest dad on the planet. Everything I wanted, I just used to do this. And my father used to jump and say, how I am my daughter. Whatever you want, I will give you. So I never really had any challenges. But now I'm here. I had challenges. And that's why God took me 10,000 kilometers away from my father, so that I can start standing on my own 2 feet. So that I can start relying and trusting in God. Not in my father. He wanted me to learn to stand on my own 2 feet. And He put me in a situation where I had no other option but to believe and trust in Him. And I thank God that He did that to me. But it wasn't easy. It was the most difficult time of my life. It was challenges all the way. And I've never prayed so much and believed in God so much like those days. But I thank God, if I have to do it over again, I'll do it over again, because that was the time in my life I grew the most spiritually. And of course, that was the time I basically had no other option but to trust in God. Anyway, let me carry on. So I was a maid for 2 solid years. And after 2 years, I realized that this was all God. And this was all God trying to teach me. So after 2 years, I said to God, okay, God, this is enough. I've learned my lesson. I've learned my lesson, and I've learned humility. I'm stepping back, and I surrender. And so what I did then, I went on a course in Germany to teach little children English. So I went on that course, and that's when I started the next journey of my life. I started teaching English, because in those days, English was not that available here in Austin. I started teaching English, and I started doing freelance English. I was a freelance English teacher. And of course, I got a little bit more money, but it still wasn't enough. But I realized now why God didn't want me to be very successful, because He's taking me on a 31-year journey. He's taking me on a 31-year journey to learn, to believe and trust in Him, and also to still get off my high horse. Because had God blessed me 31 years ago, or in the 31-year period with lots of money, it would have driven me insane, people. It would have destroyed me. A person thinks that by having money, it's going to make you happy. It will not make you happy. It kills people. It destroys people. Because guess what? When you get a lot of money and you're not ready for it, money owns you. And the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. And that is unfortunately how we are. We then start loving money, and we start thinking, oh, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that. It drives you insane. And it just, because the Bible says you cannot serve 2 gods. God, the only thing that God compares Himself to in the Bible is money. He says you cannot serve 2 masters. You can't serve God and mammon. And this is the journey I've been on. God was teaching me I cannot serve 2 gods, God and mammon. And he knew it. He knew that I would go over the rails. He knew that I wouldn't be able to separate between Him and mammon. But thank the Lord for the journey. If I have to do it again, 31 years, I'll do it again, because I've reached the point in my life now where I realize money will never own me. I will own money. And I will use the money that God is about to bless me with for the promotion of his kingdom. I heard a story many, many years ago about somebody saying, you can go anywhere, to any part of the world, to any end of the earth, and say to people in the remotest part of the world, Coca-Cola, and they'll know what you're speaking about. Why? Because Coca-Cola has spent so much money on advertising and on promoting their brand. But they've got the money. But we are in a situation, or at the time, the gospel wasn't moving at that rate. The gospel wasn't moving. You didn't find God, or people knowing about God and knowing about Jesus on the ends of the earth. But things have changed, people. Things have changed. Today, we've got social media. Today, we've got phones. Today, the tools are there to get the word of God out. And that is where we are at today. And this is where God has taken me over the 31 years. Because 31 years ago, there was no social media. 31 years ago, there was no cell phones. 31 years ago, I don't think even there was internet. I don't think so. I'm not so sure. But it could have been the beginning. It could have been the beginning. But what I'm trying to say to you people is that this has been a 31-year journey. And now finally the time has come. And the reason why I'm telling you this story, the reason why I'm telling you this story is because I've realized that as believers, as born again believers, children of God, because that is where I was at, as a born believer of God, the one thing I told you that I had, my life was pretty together. And I know that lots of you guys that are watching me have got lots of issues. There's lots of challenges in your life, in relationships, in your health, in your family, in your work situation, in life. There's many, many challenges. And I'm not going to push that aside. I'm here because I've learned also, believe it or not, even though I had it more or less okay, I've learned a lot of lessons, because it wasn't always okay. It's only that I always looked at my challenges with God in mind and with the word of God in mind. So it made it so much easier. But the main thing that was on my mind was money, because that was the thing that was holding me back the most. Even when I became a born-again Christian, the one thing that disturbed me the most was, if you're holy, that's what my traditional Christianity taught me, that if you want to be holy, you must be humble. And if you're humble, humility means poor, being poor. I wasn't very happy with that. I was not happy with being poor. I didn't want to be poor. So that was always on my mind. So basically, now the next thing that happened, the thing that came the breakthrough in 2001, when I was here in Austria, then somebody gave me a decoder, in order and it made it possible for me to access the God channel. The God channel those days was still brand new, and that was the only real link I had to learning more, to grow me in my brand new baby faith. So they gave it to me, and guess what? The first time I switched on the God channel, there was a preacher that said this. Can you believe it? The moment I switched on the button, this came up. If God tells you to go into the cotton ball business, go into the cotton ball business, and there will be a need for cotton balls. I thought, what? I can't believe a preacher preaching about money. Oh my goodness, I need to listen to this, because that was the first time I realized. I started listening to this guy, to this preacher, and he started unfolding the Bible to me and making me realize that God is a God that wants us to prosper. He doesn't want us to be broke, busted, and disgusted. He doesn't want us to struggle. He wants us to be able to go and buy a jacket for our child when they're sick. He wants us to be able, if our child comes, Mommy, I need this for school, I must be able to do that. He wants us, if somebody needs something, we must be able to say, we can buy that. He wants us as his children. If we go to the supermarket, we mustn't go and look at the thing, turn it upside down, look at the price, and not watch it. I remember there was a time back in when I was in South Africa where both my husband and I were unemployed. And I love cheese. I love cheese. And when I went to the shop to see the cheese that I like, it cost so much money. I couldn't even afford it. So you know what I used to do? I used to go to the cheese counter and ask them if I could have a taster. If I could taste. And that was the way I could get a little bit of cheese that I wanted. And I told myself, no ways, this is not the way to live. As a child of God, this is not the way to live. Because in Romans 8 verse 16, it says that you are a child of God, a joint heir with Christ. When I read that, I thought to myself, a child of God, a joint heir with Christ. If I think of what the heir means, an heir means that you inherit. So whatever Jesus inherits, I am an inheritor of the same that Jesus inherits. So basically, in my mind, I thought to myself, I'm trying to figure this out in my own understanding. I thought, if God dies tomorrow and Jesus inherits everything and I'm a joint heir with Jesus, that means everything that belongs to Jesus belongs to me. And I thought, this is it. And then it says in John 10:10 that Jesus says, I have come that you may have life in abundance to the full until it overflows. I have come that you may have life in abundance until it overflows. I said, God, that is the life I want to live. That's the life I want to live. I want to live that life. And then I thought to myself, I look at Hollywood. I would look at Hollywood and I look at the people in Hollywood. And you go to Miami and you can see there the yuppies, youngsters on boats with Ferraris and Aston Martins driving around, not working. They're living the life. And I say to God, those children, those are actually, if I can say, the wicked, because they're not believers. They're not believers. Most of them are not believers. They don't know God. Because why? They are trusting in their wealth. They're trusting in their money. And God says, you can't serve God and mammon. And most people that have so much money, they don't know God. They don't trust God. Very few people on this planet that has an abundance of money also trust God. So I said, look at them. And I'm a child of God and I don't have what, even my bare necessities I don't have. That's not on God. Sorry, God, sorry. I don't accept it. And then I came across a scripture. The wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. That was already around about at the beginning, in the say at maybe I discovered that maybe when I was 25 years ago or maybe 27 years ago, I don't know, somewhere around there, I discovered that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. Well, when I heard that being preached, since then I've been standing on it. And the pastors that were preaching this, they were saying, wealth transfer is coming, people. Wealth transfer is coming, people. Well, let's just say I've been waiting 31 years for the wealth transfer. Oh, people, I want to tell you, I finally found the answer. God showed it to me at the end of December. At the end of December, I bumped into this program. Listen, I'm not trying to sell you anything. You just listen to my story. I'm only sharing my story. I'm not trying to push any sales or anything on you. I want to tell you what my experience is. Okay? I jumped. So I found this program. In the interim, my time is fast running out. I only have 12 minutes left, so I'm going to try to make this very short. So what happened is, during this time, so I went back to South Africa. After 7 years in Austria, I went back. I didn't want to work for a job. So basically, I was back in South Africa for 14 years. And in that 14 years, I was unemployed several times. My husband was unemployed. The situation in South Africa is very, very, very bad. So we were unemployed, and then it was the worst time of my life. I was working, then I was not working, then I was working, so I was not working. So I was broke, busted, and disgusted. And in that time, I didn't want to work for a boss. Remember, I told you that when I left South Africa to come here and I became a maid, my aim was to get out of the rat race. So when I went back to South Africa, I didn't want to get back into the rat race. But unfortunately, I had to now and again get back, but I didn't want to. So I was trying network marketing and multi-level marketing and Ponzi schemes. I lost money, I lost time. It wasn't for me, but I know why. Because God didn't want me to do it. He didn't want me to do it. He didn't want me to get caught up in that. He didn't want me. And I'm not a salesperson. I hate sales. I hate people coming to me to sell things to me. That's why today I'm not here to sell. I'm just sharing my testimony with you guys. I'm sharing my testimony with you. So then in 2016, I entered a Ponzi scheme and I lost so much money. And that's when I decided, no more, I'm not doing that. So, but in December last year, I was busy on YouTube. And guess what? This thing popped up. About this digital marketing thing. And I pushed it aside. I said, no ways, I'm not doing this. But it didn't stop for 2 weeks. It was doing so. I said, okay, I'm going to check it out. Just in case it's God answering my prayers, because I'm telling God I want passive income, I need a breakthrough, blah blah blah. I'm praying God, I want a breakthrough because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I open it up, and my goodness, I find this digital thing, this digital marketing thing telling me how I can use social media to make money. Okay, I then go on a 3-month journey, just searching to find out, is this real? Because I'm not going to get involved in Ponzi's. I'm not getting involved in rubbish anymore. And goodness, I found out this is the thing. This is the thing, people. If you guys know anything else, that's fine. I'm just sharing my testimony. I could not believe it. Everything that I prayed for. So then in January, the beginning of January, God sends me another thing. He sends me a song, and I want you guys just go and listen to the song. This is my breakthrough year by Elohim Worship. I listened to that song, and it was just the song for me. Every single word in that song was God telling me this 2026 is my breakthrough year. And I thank God. 30 years ago, on the 8th of March, 1996, I gave my life to the Lord. I became a born-again Christian. I had a vision from God, and God told me my future. He told me I'm going to be involved in youth ministry. It took 31 years for me, actually 30 years for me to get it. 31 years from the time that my turning point, but 30 years exactly it took for me to get to what God promised me, that I'm going to be in youth ministry. A search of 30 years, people. Anyway, so here I am today with social media, something that I was running away from. I'm so much against social media. I'm not a social media person. But I got involved in this program, and this program has been teaching me about social media, and guess what? It has given me a platform to talk God's things, to share. And here today I'm standing in front of you, and today there is so many youth here on this platform listening to me. It would never have happened. I'm thinking to myself, I'm Joyce Meyer standing on a stage. But God has had a better plan. He had a bigger plan for me. 30 years ago, before social media was so alive, God already knew that in 30 years' time, I'm going to open up the platforms to you. And this is what He's doing. And not only that, I always used to say to God, God, if I work for you, you're going to pay me. And when you pay me, then you pay me big. And God told the scripture that God gave me at the end of last year. You know, people, I never tithed. I could never tithe. Because I just didn't have the guts to tithe. Even when I was working, even when I had a big salary, I never had the guts to tithe. But in 2021, I bumped into a church after searching for 3 years for a church here in Austria, because I came back. Hold on, people. My bell is ringing. My husband's coming. Hold on. Sorry, people, my husband came home and I had to open up the door for him, and I've lost a few minutes. Anyway, so what I was saying. So where did I stop? Anyway, so I was searching for this, and God, and I made it. Okay, so where was I? I was telling you that social media. Oh, I forgot. I forgot. Can someone remind me where I was? Can someone remind me where I was? Can someone tell me what was the last thing that I said? Because I forgot my line of thought. Anyway, so I got onto this. I got into this program, and I totally forgot, people. Where was I? Anyway, where was I? Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I got onto this program, and this program is just giving me the platform to speak to all the youth, to speak to everyone, to tell you that what Jesus said is true. Jesus says that he came that we may have life in abundance to the full until it overflows. And I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to share the program that he gave you. I want you to know that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. This is our time. I'm new on this journey, and I've asked you to join me on this journey, and I'm going to share every single hurdle. What I'm saying, I'm going to talk to you about faith. Faith is seeing the things that are not as though they really are. And I'm telling you right now that I am going to prosper financially this year. This is my breakthrough year. And I asked you guys, if you want to come along, you can come along. In Mark 11 verse 22, this was my, I'm closing off now because I've got 4 minutes left. In Mark 11 verse 22, it says, have faith in God. Say to the mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and does not doubt in your heart that those things that you say will come to pass. You will have whatsoever you say. Therefore, whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believe that you receive it, and it is yours. Well, that scripture says, say it, believe it, and receive it. Go read it. Mark 11, verse 22 to 24. I'm telling you people today, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm telling you that by the end of this year, you are going to see a euro millionaire, by the end of this year. I'm putting it out there because I'm saying it, I'm believing it, and I receive it. Faith is seeing the things that are not as though they already are. Watch me on this journey, people. Go with me on the journey. I'm telling you, and I'm going to share all my experiences from then to now. I'm going to share it step by step by step. And I'm hoping that whatever I have inside of me and whatever I have to share in my life experiences, I'm going to tell you about. I'm going to tell you about faith. I'm going to tell you about relationships. I'm going to tell you about health and sickness and disease, how God has saved us, how we've been redeemed. Because in Galatians 3 verse 13, it says, we have been redeemed from the curse of the law. And when I studied the curse of the law, which is in Deuteronomy 28, I studied it. There's 3 things: spiritual death, sickness, and poverty. We have been redeemed from spiritual death, from sickness, and from poverty. And I'm going to share all those things with you on this channel. So stay with me, people. Stay with me, people. This is our breakthrough year. And that's all for now, because I've got exactly 2 minutes left, and I know that I speak so much, and I'm so sorry, people, that I'm not looking at the comments, and I'm so sorry, people, that I haven't said hello to any of you, but I get so passionate and I get so excited to talk to you that I don't even have a chance to look at the comments. But I would ask you to direct message me and put questions there. If you want me to answer any questions, when I do my next live, I'll be addressing all those questions. At the moment, I'm just talking from my experience, but I'm so willing to help you and to speak to you directly. So I've got 1 minute left, people, and I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for believing in me. Thank you so much for sticking by me. Thank you for so much for just encouraging me not to give up, because this is my 25th day on social media, and because of you, and because that you haven't given up on me, and because you show so much interest in what I have to say, I am not able to give up, because I don't want to let you down. So have a wonderful weekend, and I will keep you informed about my next live. Love you guys. See you in my next live. Have a wonderful weekend.